Imagine standing before a burning bush, the ground beneath your feet trembling, and a voice thunders from the flames, "I am that I am." What would you do? This is not just a cryptic phrase, a mere name. It's a revelation that shakes the very foundation of reality. But what does it truly mean? Is it simply God identifying himself to Moses, or is there something far deeper beneath the surface, something that speaks to the nature of God himself and the mystery of eternity? Have you ever wondered, why would God, the creator of everything, reveal himself like this? And what does it say about our understanding of time, existence, and even our place in this universe? In today's video, we're going to uncover the mystery behind one of the most profound statements ever made. I am that I am is not just a name. It's a cosmic declaration that unlocks the very essence of God's eternal nature, his self-sufficiency, and his unimaginable existence. But here's the twist. This phrase doesn't just explain God, it challenges everything we know about time, existence, and reality itself. Can we even begin to grasp the meaning of eternity, a concept so vast that it's beyond our comprehension? What if this revelation was more than just a theological statement? What if it holds the key to understanding the divine structure of our world and our place in it? Stay tuned as we dive into the biblical origins of this powerful phrase, explore its significance in Exodus, and unravel its deeper theological implications. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand the phrase, "I am that I am," but you'll also see how it connects to the very essence of eternity and what it means for us, here, today. So let's explore the depths of this mystery. Are you ready to discover the mind-bending truth behind God's eternal existence? Let's begin. Picture this. A hot desert wind blows through the wilderness of Midian. Moses, a man weighed down by years of exile, stumbles upon an unusual sight. A bush burns with fire, yet it is not consumed. A voice booms from within the flames. "I am that I am. I am." How would you respond to such an encounter? Would you be filled with awe, fear, or perhaps confusion? What could such a powerful, strange statement truly mean? The phrase, "I am that I am," is not just words spoken in the desert thousands of years ago. It's a divine declaration that resonates throughout the ages, shaking the very foundation of reality itself. But to understand its full significance, we must step back into the moment it was first spoken, Exodus 3:14, when God revealed himself to Moses at the burning bush. Moses was an unlikely prophet. Raised as an Egyptian prince, he had fled to the desert after a tragic mistake. For years he wandered in solitude, tending sheep, feeling lost and forgotten. But then, something extraordinary happened. God appeared to him in the form of a burning bush. The bush was on fire, yet it wasn't consumed. And from this bush, the voice of God spoke, "Moses, I have seen the suffering of my people, and I am sending you to deliver them from slavery." Moses, understandably, felt unworthy. "Who am I, Lord, that I should go? Who should I say sent me?" he asked. Then came the answer that would forever change the course of history. "Tell them, I am that I am has sent you." I am that I am is not just a name. It is a statement of absolute power, self-sufficiency, and eternity. It is a declaration that God is the eternal, uncreated source of all existence. By using this name, God revealed not only his identity, but the very nature of his being. Think about it. What does it mean to be I am? To declare I am is to affirm one's existence in the present moment, independent of time or place. There is no past or future for God. He simply is. In a world where everything seems to have a beginning and an end, God stands as the ultimate constant. He is not defined by anything outside of himself. He does not become something, he simply is, now, forever, and beyond. The linguistic meaning, Ehe Asher Ehe. The phrase itself, written in Hebrew as Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, carries a depth of meaning that is lost in simple translation. It can be rendered as I am who I am, or I will be what I will be. These translations only begin to touch the surface of what God is revealing. But why would God choose these words and not something simpler, something more straightforward? The choice of I am speaks directly to God's self-existence. He is not defined by time, place, or even human understanding. God is the source, the uncaused cause of everything that exists. Nothing, no event, no being can claim to have given him existence. He simply is. I will be what I will be emphasizes the mystery and sovereignty of God. He is not bound by our expectations or understanding. His plans and purposes are beyond human comprehension. His will is always in motion, and we are invited into that divine flow, even if we cannot fully grasp it. Why does God choose this name? Now you might be asking, why this name? Why not something else? In this declaration, God is not only revealing himself to Moses, he is also setting the stage for his relationship with his people. By saying, I am that I am, God is establishing his nature as the eternal, unchanging, and self-sufficient creator. God's choice of this name is a direct challenge to everything the world knew about gods at the time. Egypt, where Moses had lived, worshipped a pantheon of gods who were bound by time, power struggles, and mortal limitations. In contrast, the God of Israel is declaring that he is outside of time. He doesn't change with the seasons, with the kings, or with the whims of men. This name reveals a God who cannot be controlled, defined, or limited by human understanding. He is the source of everything. His existence isn't based on anything outside of himself. And that's why he chose I am, because it is the most perfect way to reveal the fullness of his nature. What does this mean for us today? But here's the real question. Why does this matter for us? When God declares himself as I am, he's telling us something incredibly important. He is constant. In a world that's ever-changing, where our lives are filled with uncertainty, fear, and change, God remains steadfast. His promises are unshakable, his love unchanging. The God who spoke to Moses in the burning bush is still the same God we serve today. He is with you right now, I am. In your moments of doubt, in your struggles, in your fears, remember that God's name is not tied to a moment or a circumstance. He is eternal. Imagine the power of that realization. The God who led Israel out of Egypt is the same God who is guiding you today. His will, his plan, and his presence are available to you, unchanging, eternal, and all-powerful. The story of the burning bush? Picture this scene. You're standing in the midst of a desert, the sun beating down, when suddenly a bush catches your eye. It burns, yet it doesn't consume. It stands there unscathed, as if time itself is frozen around it. As you approach, a voice speaks from the flames. I am that I am. Your heart races as you realize this is no ordinary moment. This is a divine encounter. For Moses, this was more than just a moment of revelation. It was the moment he was called to lead his people. But for us, it's a moment that raises more questions than answers. What does it mean when God says, I am that I am? How does this single phrase reveal God's very nature? And more importantly, what does it mean for our understanding of eternity? What does it mean for our understanding of eternity? God's self-existence, the uncaused cause. Let's pause for a moment. God's declaration, I am that I am, tells us something profound. God is self-existent. He does not depend on anything or anyone for his existence. Unlike us, who rely on food, air, and time to exist, God simply is. But how can we understand this? Every human being, every creature, every star exists because something caused it to be. But God, the Creator, is the uncaused cause. His existence has no beginning, no end. He is the source of all things, but he is not sourced by anything. This concept is so beyond our human comprehension that it can make our minds spin. How do we, who are bound by time, begin to grasp a being who exists outside of it? Human understanding of time, our limited perspective. Let's dive a little deeper. Our lives are governed by time. We measure every aspect of our existence by the ticking of a clock. We age, we grow, and we experience the passage of days, weeks, years. Everything around us changes, seasons, landscapes, even people. But here's the twist. God is outside of time. Imagine time as a river flowing relentlessly forward. For us, we're in the current, carried along with it, powerless to stop its flow. But God? He stands above the river. He sees the entire river from the beginning to the end all at once. The past, present, and future are like one single moment to Him. Can you even begin to imagine what that's like? Eternity in the Bible, connecting the dots. God's eternal nature is not just revealed in the burning bush. The Bible is full of references to God's timeless existence. In Psalm 92 it says, "Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God." God existed before the mountains were formed, before time itself had even begun. He is and always will be the eternal God. And then in Revelation 1:8, God speaks again. "I am the Alpha and the Omega, says the Lord God, who is and who was and who is to come, the Almighty." Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. In other words, God transcends time. He isn't just timeless in the sense that He's unchanging. He is eternal in a way we can't fully grasp because He exists beyond the confines of time. God outside of time, active in every moment. But here's the most mind-blowing part. God's eternity isn't about being a passive, distant force. He's not just sitting outside of time, watching us. No, God is actively present in every moment, past, present, and future. Think about it. When God created the heavens and the earth, He wasn't just looking at the past. He was actively present in every moment of creation. When He spoke to Moses from the burning bush, He was as present in that moment as He is with us right now. And the future? God isn't just waiting for it to unfold. In His eternal presence, the future is already known, and yet we have the freedom to choose. Isn't that awe-inspiring? A mind-bending question. What does this mean for us? This is attended seriously. For each of us, Now here's where the real question comes in. What does all this mean for us? If God is eternal, self-existent, and present in every moment, how does this shape our lives today? Do you feel lost in time sometimes? Like life is rushing by and you can't keep up? The truth is, God sees it all, and His eternal plan is working through every moment of your life. Do you question your purpose in the grand scheme of things? The eternal God who stands outside of time sees your life, every choice you make, and has already written your story. His eternal presence means you are never forgotten, never unseen. Do you wonder about your future? The future is secure in God's hands. His eternity is a promise that we are part of something much bigger than we can imagine. Imagine, if you will, a man standing before a mysterious blazing bush. The heat so intense it seems to scorch the air around him, yet the flames do not consume it. This is Moses. And as he stares at the burning bush, the voice of God echoes through the desert, saying, "I am that I am." It's a moment that defies time, a moment of divine revelation that holds power beyond our understanding. But what does this phrase, "I am that I am," really mean? What does it reveal about God's identity, and why, at this critical juncture in history, did God choose to introduce Himself in this profound way? This is not just a name, this is the essence of God's being. In these 4 words, God proclaims not just that He exists, but that He is the source of all life, truth, and order in the universe. But as we explore deeper, you'll realize that this statement is not just a moment in history. It's a key to understanding God's eternal nature and His unwavering covenant with His people. Let's step back for a moment. It's over 3,000 years ago. Moses, a shepherd exiled in the wilderness, is now called by God to lead the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. But there's something extraordinary happening here. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God that Moses knew by the name of Yahweh, is about to reveal something even more profound. When Moses asks God for his name, God responds with these words, "I am that I am." But why does this matter? Why is this moment so significant? Well, it's not just about a name, it's about the nature of God. It's a declaration of his self-existence, his eternal presence, and his ultimate authority over all creation. The phrase, "I am that I am," shows us that God is not defined by anything outside of himself. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, before time began and beyond the time we know. Now think about this. What does it mean that God exists beyond time and space? If we take this truth seriously, it reshapes everything we know about the world and our relationship with God. Could this be the key to understanding not only who God is, but also how we are meant to relate to him? God as the ultimate source. Let's dig deeper. God's name, "I am that I am," reveals his identity as the ultimate source of all things. He is not a God who came into existence through some process or evolution. He is the unmoved mover, the uncaused cause, the force that gives life to everything around us. There is nothing before him, and there is nothing that exists apart from him. He is the one who holds all things together, and everything in this world finds its purpose in his eternal will. Think of this for a moment. The stars in the sky, the oceans that stretch across the earth, the air we breathe, all of it exists because God wills it. Every moment of our lives, every breath we take, is a result of God's continuous, sustaining power. Without him, nothing would exist. God doesn't just exist within creation, he is the creator and sustainer of all that is. End of poem. But here's the shocking twist. If God is the ultimate source of everything, does that mean he's in control of every part of our lives? Every trial, every blessing, every moment? Are we truly living in accordance with his divine plan? God's self-revelation isn't just about his identity. It's about his relationship with his people. The name "I am that I am" is intimately connected to his covenant with Israel. In Exodus, when God speaks to Moses, he is not just revealing a name, he is making a promise. By declaring himself as "I am," God is telling Moses that he is the God who was, who is, and who always will be. He's not a distant, far-off deity. He is present. His covenant is eternal. It's a promise that God will be with his people in every moment, through bondage, through freedom, through trials and triumphs. In that moment, God's eternal nature guarantees that his promises will never fail. The covenant he makes with Israel is not dependent on their faithfulness, but on his unchanging faithfulness. God's promises stand firm, even when we falter. His "I am" means that he has always been with his people and he will always be with them, no matter the circumstance. End quote. But what does this eternal promise mean for you today? How does knowing that God's covenant is unbreakable change the way you view your struggles and your faith? Now here's the heart of the matter. God's eternal nature guarantees his consistency and reliability. In a world that's constantly changing, where everything seems to shift and break, God remains the same. He is dependable. When you face uncertainty, confusion, or fear, God's eternal presence is your anchor. He is the rock that cannot be shaken. His love for you, his plans for you, his promises to you, these are not bound by time or circumstance. They are rooted in eternity. This is the beauty of knowing God as "I am that I am." When everything around you feels unstable, you can take comfort in the fact that God is forever. His love never changes. His promises are forever. His will is unstoppable. You can trust that his plan for your life is eternal, and no circumstance, no trial, no moment of suffering will ever change that. Imagine what would happen if we lived fully trusting in that truth. If we truly believed in God's eternal consistency, how would our perspective on life's challenges change? The lesson for us today. So, what does all of this mean for us in the here and now? It means that we are not just living in some random, chaotic universe. We are living in a world that was designed, sustained, and governed by a God who is both eternal and faithful. And this, when God says, I am that I am. He is reminding us that our lives, our struggles, and our purpose are not outside of His divine plan. We are not left to fend for ourselves. God is with us, and His presence is an anchor in every storm. This eternal God invites you into a relationship, not just for today but for forever. His love for you is unchanging, His plan for your life is unshakable, and His promise? It lasts for eternity. In the ancient world, names were not just labels. They were gateways to power. A name wasn't just how someone was identified. It was a reflection of their very essence. This was especially true in the Hebrew tradition. In ancient Israel, names were loaded with meaning, revealing the character and role of the individual. Take, for example, the names of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Each name carried a divine promise and purpose, encapsulating God's covenant with His people. And now, God Himself is revealing His name to Moses. But this isn't just a name, it's a statement of being. The Hebrew phrase Ihia Asher Esher literally translates to I am who I am, or I will be who I will be. This declaration is far more than a mere identification. It's a profound revelation of God's eternal and unchangeable nature. He does not become anything. He simply is. It is a name that defies all human understanding. No human being could claim such a thing, for all things in creation are dependent on something else to exist. But God is different. He is the origin of all things. Now let's step back for a moment and consider the world Moses was stepping into. Egypt, the most powerful empire of the ancient world, was steeped in idolatry. Their gods were many, each one representing different forces of nature, life, and death. The pharaoh himself was considered divine, the living god on earth, believed to be the son of Ra, the sun god. Everything in Egypt was structured around the power and control of these gods. There was no room for anything or anyone outside of this cosmic system. Pharaoh was seen as the ultimate authority, the ruler of both the land and the heavens. So when Moses, simple Hebrew man, stands before Pharaoh and says, "The God of Israel has sent me," he is not just delivering a message. He is challenging Egypt's very foundation. When God reveals His name, I am that I am, He is declaring His authority over all gods, including Pharaoh himself. He is telling Moses and the people of Israel that this God is not just another deity among many. He is the only true God, above time, above creation, and above all that exists. Can you imagine the shock and confusion this declaration must have caused? A name that says, "I do not need your recognition to exist. I am the cause of all causes, the creator of heaven and earth." How could anyone, especially Pharaoh, understand such an unimaginable claim? But this was the moment of truth, the moment when God made clear that His power would not be contained by human constructs. Think about the implications of what Moses was saying. The Egyptians had gods for every part of their world: gods of the Nile, gods of fertility, gods of the sun, gods of war. Pharaoh himself was believed to be a god among these gods, but now a voice from the wilderness is declaring that there is only one true God. I am that I am cuts through the Egyptian pantheon like a sword, directly challenging the authority of Pharaoh's divine status. This wasn't just a theological argument. It was a cosmic showdown. Pharaoh would soon come to learn that his gods were powerless in the face of the true God. The plagues, the signs, the mighty acts of God, they were all declarations of His sovereignty over every force that Egypt had trusted in. But the real shocker is yet to come. What does this name tell us about time, about God's eternal nature, and what does it mean for us today? This phrase isn't just a statement for an ancient pharaoh. It's a message for us, for all humanity throughout history. Stay with me, because we're about to unlock even deeper truths. When God says, "I am that I am," He is not bound by time. He is not limited to a moment in history, nor is He confined to the past, present, or future. God exists outside of time. He is the creator of time itself, the one who set the universe in motion. In this phrase, we see not just a name, but a declaration of God's self-existence. He is the I am. He is not becoming, he simply is. In contrast to the Egyptian gods, who were tied to nature and dependent on rituals, offerings, and the power of Pharaoh's rule, God's eternal presence cannot be manipulated. He is the unchanging one, past, present, and future in one eternal moment. No other God, no matter how powerful, could ever make such a claim. This is the profound mystery of God's being, and it's a truth that shapes the entire trajectory of Scripture. But here's the question that will truly challenge you. If God is the great I am, eternal and unchanging, what does that mean for our understanding of life, death, and eternity? How does this truth affect us today? Let's explore that next. Imagine standing before a burning bush, where the ground itself seems to hum with divine power. The voice that emerges from the flames isn't just a message, it's an eternal declaration. I am that I am. These words echo through the ages, resonating with the deepest questions about God, existence, and eternity itself. But what exactly does it mean when God reveals himself this way? How do we, as humans, even begin to grasp the meaning of eternity, a concept so vast that it seems impossible for our finite minds to understand? Let's take a step back. Throughout history, philosophers and theologians have wrestled with the idea of eternity. Think of St. Augustine, who in his Confessions pondered the infinite nature of God. For him, God exists outside the boundaries of time, seeing all of history as one eternal now. And then there's Thomas Aquinas, who wrote extensively about God's existence as the uncaused cause, meaning that God exists by his own power, without beginning or end. But I am that I am takes us even further. These words are not simply a claim of identity, they challenge the very fabric of how we understand time and being. Imagine a God who is both beyond time, unchanging, and eternal, and yet fully present in the here and now. This is where the paradox lies. How can God be both beyond time and within time at the same moment? How can he exist without a beginning and without an end, yet still interact with us within our limited human understanding of the present moment? This paradox is not just theological theory. It's a question that hits at the core of every believer's faith. It challenges us to consider, if God's eternity is a reality, how does that affect our understanding of our own lives? How does it change our perception of the afterlife and the soul's journey? The paradox of eternality. Let's pause here and reflect. Can you feel the weight of this paradox? A God who is eternal, who sees the past, present, and future all at once, yet he steps into our world. He's not a distant, uninvolved deity. He is present in every moment of our lives, from our smallest joys to our deepest struggles. Take a moment to let that sink in. What does it mean that God is both beyond time and fully present within it? This isn't just a philosophical conundrum. It's a question that affects how we live, how we worship, and how we understand our place in this world. Think about your most challenging moments, those times when you felt utterly alone. Imagine in those moments that the eternal God was right there with you, not just watching from afar, but fully present. This is what the phrase, I am that I am, means. It's a promise that God, in his infinite eternity, chooses to step into your reality to meet you where you are. But this brings us to a deeper question. If God exists outside of time, does that mean our lives and our choices don't matter? Can our actions truly impact eternity? What does eternity mean for us? This is where I am that I am becomes not just a theological truth, but a call to action. If God is eternal, then our souls too are eternal. Our decisions, our faith, and our relationships with God are not just fleeting moments in time. They echo throughout eternity. This is the truth that Christians hold dear. Salvation is not just for this life, but for the life to come. But here's the kicker. What does this eternal perspective mean for us right now? If God is eternal, how should that change how we live our daily lives? How should it influence the way we love others, seek forgiveness, or live with purpose? Think about the eternal nature of God as it relates to salvation. Jesus tells us that He is the way, the truth, and the life. John 14:6. But what does that promise mean if God's existence stretches beyond the constraints of time? If He is I am that I am, then salvation isn't just a past event. It's an ongoing journey, a transformation that stretches into eternity. This perspective invites us to live not only for today, but for the life to come, knowing that the choices we make now echo into forever. This is the ultimate mystery and the ultimate hope for every believer. Eternity is not just a concept. It is a relationship with the eternal God, one that starts now and continues forever. It's a journey we are invited into, a divine adventure where we walk in step with the one who is the source of all time. So, what does it mean for us to live with eternity in mind? First, it means we can have hope that transcends our present struggles and challenges. Second, it means our lives are not meaningless. Each moment, each choice, each act of kindness or love holds eternal significance in God's plan. I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. What would change in your life if you truly believed that God's eternal presence was with you in every moment? How would that change how you approach challenges, relationships, and your own faith journey? Imagine standing before a bush consumed by fire, yet untouched by flames. The heat is almost unbearable, but the voice that calls your name from within this burning spectacle is like nothing you've ever heard. Calm, steady, and filled with a power beyond comprehension. Moses, bewildered and overwhelmed, approaches the voice, and then it happens. God speaks, and the words He utters are not just words. They are a revelation that will echo through the ages. I am that I am. Can you feel the weight of those words? I am that I am. In this simple phrase, God is not merely introducing Himself. He is revealing the very essence of His being. But what does it mean? Is it just a name? Or is there something far deeper embedded in this declaration? A truth that transcends time, space, and all human understanding. The moment Moses hears this, his life changes forever. But here's the thing, this phrase is not just for Moses, it's for us too. And the deeper we go into its meaning, the more we realize it's not just about who God is. It's about who we are in the presence of the eternal, self-existent Creator. So that the Creator of the universe itself, let's step back in time to the moment when Moses encountered God in the burning bush. Israel had been in bondage for centuries under Pharaoh, oppressed and enslaved. The people were lost without a true sense of identity or future. And then, God steps into the scene, not with a simple name, but with a declaration that redefines reality itself. In the ancient world, names were more than just labels, they carried power. When a king or ruler introduced themselves, it was a declaration of authority, a statement of who they were and what they controlled. But God, He doesn't introduce Himself like any earthly king. He speaks not of what He controls, but of who He is. He is not a part of creation. He is the Creator. His existence is not dependent on anything else. It simply is. I am that I am. But why did God say this? Wasn't it enough to say, I am God, or I am the Creator? Why the repetition? Why the depth? The answer lies in the nature of God's existence. He is not defined by anything outside of Himself. He is the source of all that is, and He is the beginning and the end. Here lies the profound lesson for us all. God's self-existence is what makes Him different from anything we know. He is not bound by time, place, or circumstance. He simply is. And in His declaration, He invites us to enter into a relationship with the one who exists outside of time, who is eternal, unchanging, and constant in His love and promises. But what does this mean for us today? We live in a world that's constantly changing. We face challenges, pain, and moments of uncertainty. But when we look to God, we see something remarkable. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His eternal nature means that His promises are not fleeting. They are forever. Now, take a moment to reflect. What does it mean for your life that the God you serve is eternal? Is your faith grounded in a God who is always present no matter what you face? Think about that. But here's the real kicker. God's eternity is not just a theological concept. It's personal. It's a truth that shapes how we live, how we relate to God, and how we see ourselves in the world. If God is eternal, then so is His love. If He is eternal, then His plans for you are also eternal. You are part of His unending story, and nothing in this life can take that away from you. And here's the twist you might not expect. This truth about God's eternal nature isn't just a concept for theologians. It's a lifeline for every person struggling with the weight of time. Whether it's facing loss, battling anxiety, or wondering about your future, when you grasp that God is, you begin to realize that you can rest in the knowledge that He is already at work in your tomorrow, today, and forever. The eternal nature of God invites us into a relationship that is not bound by time. God isn't limited by the moments that we're stuck in. He's calling us to see the bigger picture, to realize that our lives are part of His eternal plan. We don't have to understand everything, but we can trust that the God who is eternal is also the God who is good, who loves us deeply, and who will never leave us. I want to hear from you. What does the eternal nature of God mean to you? How does understanding that God simply is change the way you see your life and your faith? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's dive deeper together. And if this video has helped you understand the eternal nature of God in a new light, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful insights. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into the truths that shape our world. Together, we'll continue uncovering the mysteries of God's eternal love and truth. Let's continue to grow in faith together.